What is up, New York Giants fans, Big Blue Nation? It's Rob and Donald. This is Nerding Out Sports, and it's not Victory Monday. It's Misery Monday as the Giants get embarrassed by the Detroit Lions yesterday, 31-18. Ugly, ugly, ugly loss. Not only that, but injuries. This team is the king of the MCL sprain, and ACLs apparently as well, as Wan'Dale Robinson's been lost for the season. We are beleaguered, we're weakened, and we've got a short week as we head to Dallas. But let's start with the Detroit game. Man, oh man, it was ugly. Where do we begin?
I guess you start with the injuries. Losing Wan'Dale is particularly tough because he was starting to garner some chemistry with Daniel Jones, and he was looking. This was obviously his best game. He cleared 100 yards receiving, and he was starting to look like he could be effective, showing nice hands, nice running routes. But then he gets hurt, and then that's all she wrote. Basically, there was systematic breakdowns throughout the team. I mean, it starts with coaching because I don't know what Adoree Jackson's doing returning punts. That's a mistake. But I don't want to focus too much on Brian Dable because, let's face it, if we actually had someone, if Richie James, for instance, could actually return punts, then we would never have been in a situation where we'd be forced to put in Adoree Jackson because Brian Dable's doing what we're asking him to do, try and win games. He's trying to find someone that's not going to fumble the football when returning punts. So that's why he went with Adoree Jackson. But it was still a mistake. So you do that. Then obviously he gets hurt, and then that's us for 5 weeks. So obviously that was a coaching breakdown. Play calling was suspect. I think we can safely say that.
Yep.
Saquon couldn't get anything going. And then we get to the defense, and especially Jalen Smith was getting lit up. Our linebackers couldn't do anything. We weren't getting any pressures. Thibodeau probably had his worst game as a Giant. He wasn't really doing too much. We just couldn't generate any pressure at all. Goff had a lot of time, and he was just systematically just breaking us down, especially in the intermediates. So obviously there was a breakdown on defense. Williams did what he wanted. Monroe St. Brown lit us up. I love Monroe St. Brown. He's really freaking good, by the way. So defense, special teams broken. From what I understand, Graham Gano had to get like 3-4 IVs just prior to the game itself because he was ill.
Yeah.
But he couldn't hit a single extra point. I've never seen that before. So I know the wind was really bad. But then, of course, our punter, the hammer of the Scots or whatever it was, dude's hammer was going like 5 feet. So it was just breakdowns everywhere you look. And then obviously the 2 turnovers from Daniel Jones. We'll get into that. So wherever you look, whether it's special teams, defense, or offense, there was breakdowns everywhere.
Yeah, and 1,000% correct everything you said. And it was the worst game of the season because even in the Seattle game, you can point at it was the Richie James fumbles that really cost us that game because we probably would have had a chance to win. The Dallas game, even though Dallas kind of outplayed us, we were still in it. And Daniel Jones wasn't getting any favors in that game. But yesterday, just everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. You couldn't run the ball at all. Detroit, who has the second worst defense in the league, was ready for it. Daniel Jones had his best passing game of the season, and it didn't matter. And that's what's crazy. And then you think about it, the defense. I don't think the defense was that terrible. They were given short field a couple of times, which led to points. They got 14 points off of turnovers. It's difficult to not allow points off of turnovers. I'm not saying they were good. They certainly weren't, but I don't think they were the worst part of the day yesterday. I think if we're going to look at the worst part of the day, it had to have been the fact that the team was just sloppy. the whole team in general was just very sloppy. Penalties, the first drive, Detroit, when they got 3, their second drive at least, O'Shane Jimenez gets a penalty, keeps their drive alive, give up a few points. But then we respond. We go down the field, we get 6, and you're like, okay. And then Adoree Jackson gets hurt, and all the momentum just went out the window. They're committing penalties. They're being really stupid on the field. They're just doing things that we haven't seen them do all season. Very uncharacteristic, very uncoordinated. And it's like, Dable, there's ever a time for you to start screaming at people. This is it. And then you look at the end of the first half, Dable's play calling, or I'm sorry, not the play calling, the clock management, not spiking the ball, not going for the Hail Marys and things like that. It was just very mind-boggling.
Do you think that was on Dable or was it on Daniel Jones? I thought it was on Daniel Jones for not spiking the ball. I think he tried to call a play on the fly, and it just was just really bad. But it depends on which way you look at it. I thought it was maybe Daniel Jones doing kind of a Dak Prescott in the playoffs last year was what it reminded me of. It was just kind of really bad decision making, but it might have been on Dable. I'm not sure.
Yeah, either way, you can chalk it up the whole day. Just decisions were bad, play was bad, and the Giants got embarrassed. And when you play that way, you don't deserve to win. Simple as that. The Lions, and I even said during the preview, I would not be surprised if we lose this game, but I did not think we would be that bad where we get hurt left and right. They're just playing sloppy. The Lions were just toying with us at times. And then you look at the fact that when we can't run the football, we really are very just easily beatable. And even on a day where, like I mentioned earlier, where Daniel Jones threw for 300-plus yards for the first time this season, it didn't matter. We just could not drive down the field. The interceptions, the first one where I guess we could talk about Jones now, the one that Aiden Hutchinson just didn't see him. And that's a Jones mistake that we haven't seen this year really since week 1. Just did not see him. And he was in his line of vision the whole time. Just a blatantly bad interception.
Well, that was a huge mistake right there. It just looks like he completely missed the fact that Hutchinson read what was going on. It was a terrible throw. Can't be made, but Hutchinson's pretty special. We were talking about that in the preview. He already had 5.5 sacks and intercepted prior. He's had a very good year to this point, phenomenal rookie year. And he showed it again. Like on Sunday, he was just fantastic. He was just better on that play. But it was a complete meltdown from Daniel Jones. Like, because I remember I was texting you before, and I was like, hey, Jones is playing pretty well here. He was hot. Then he complete brain fart. I just think he completely missed what was happening in front of him just on that one moment, and it cost us. It was a terrible throw. Can't be made. Shouldn't have been made. But a lot of the Jones interceptions can be put down to trying to force the issue because we couldn't generate anything on the ground. But there's a reason why the Giants are very, very conservative with Daniel Jones. They really don't want to air it out.
Right.
They don't want to be in a situation where we're throwing 35 to 40 times a game because it's not a winning formula for this Giant team. This Giant team is built around Saquon Barkley. It's built around the play action. It's built built around grounding the games out. It's not a team built playing 2 scores from behind. It's just not. It's just, we just don't have the offense for it. We don't have the receivers for it. We don't have the receiver depth for it. We don't have enough people that can go downfield in order to air it out. I don't even think we have the pass protection, apart from Andrew Thomas, especially with Evan Neal out and the mess that's going on with the interior. And also, I'm not 100% sure, and it's not necessarily disrespect on Daniel Jones because he's had a very good year, but I don't necessarily think the coaching staff entirely trust that he's going to carry a team down the field by himself by airing it out. I think his best asset is his legs, in my opinion. So I think I completely disagree with like this premise that the Giants should should be airing it out more because you saw it last night. It just doesn't work. So you kind of want more of a balance than we've had because it's basically just been like 70% run. You want a little bit more balance, but the true issue is if you stop Saquon Barkley, you stop the Giants, and that's just the truth. And that's what they did.
It's absolutely true. And Luca comes in here and says, joked around with Alex before the Texans game that the Giants would lose one of the two games. I didn't think I'd be right. Coaching staff can look at itself in the mirror now. Yeah, maybe a bit of a wake-up call. You know, it was kind of, I don't want to say everything was perfect, you know, because they were winning a lot of sloppy games that they probably shouldn't have won. You know, as you know, even though we're 7-3, we could very easily be 1-9, 2-8, you know, something like that. So I don't want to sound like the sky is falling here because to me, we're still playing with the house's money. The season's already been far better than I could have anticipated.
I completely agree with that, 100%.
But I just do think that this needs to be a wake-up call because if they want this thing to build, you have to maybe put a little more trust because I'm looking at the touchdown drive that we had in the first quarter, and that was textbook for what this offense should be doing. The first play, they get Slayton for 17. He hits Cager for 7. They use Breida on the fourth down. They get a 16-yard play to Matt Breida, 18 yards to 1. Tudo's in the chat. Oh, Tudo. That's salutes to Rob, Donald, and Luca.
Sorry, please provide those stats again, man. Sorry about that.
No. Yeah, and then they ended it with the 4-yard run. I'm sorry, not the 4-yard run. 4-yard run by Saquon, and then Jones runs it in for the touchdown.
Yeah.
That was textbook. The Lions couldn't stop it. And then we get a stop, and then they start to move the football again, and then they have a penalty that moves them back a little bit, and then they have to punt, and that's where the game started to go away from them because they had them on the ropes. The Lions couldn't stop us, even though it was only 6-3. We had them right where we wanted them, and they just could not add that second score. And that's been the Giants' problem for a while, but especially right now, when you have very little chances. We barely put the Texans away last week, and we had a chance to get an early advantage against the Lions here yesterday, and they just couldn't do it. So that's really where the issue lies. It's like when they have something that works on one drive, they go away from it the next. And I know you want to get Saquon involved as much as possible. When you see that the Lions are accounting for him no matter what, and they were not accounting for anybody else on that first drive, go back to it. You know, I know Saquon's your best player, but if they can't stop your other players, don't go away from what just worked. And then once they had that false start that knocked them back to like 3rd and 8, which led to the punt on that second drive after the touchdown, everything fell apart from that point. They could not generate offense. They're turning the football over, and the Lions just ran away with it.
A massive shout out to the Tigers interior linemen, the Lions interior linemen. He was fantastic. McNeil was fantastic. Aleem McNeil, he had a huge game. He was a wrecking ball in the interior. He was constant pressure from Aleem McNeil. Lemieux couldn't handle him. Feliciano couldn't handle him. And he caused all kinds of mayhem. And he was one of the difference makers in the game. But that obviously seamlessly has us focus on our offensive line because Shane Lemieux managed to grade out as a 0, which I don't think I've ever seen anyone in PFF get graded a 0 before. But he has managed it because in just 39 snaps, he managed 5 pressures and a sack.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he got lit up. I mean, how do you even get graded a 0? That means like if me and you played left guard for 39 snaps, we'd probably have exactly the same grade as Shane Lemieux, who's a professional. So, sorry, not excusable in my opinion. Can't excuse. That's not absolutely inexcusable. I don't care that you're just got yourself back. You can't do that. And just a couple of snaps, you give up 5 pressures and a sack. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? Saquon Barkley, just 22 yards and 18 carries, I believe.
15.
15. He couldn't do anything. I don't know whether he's hurt or what, but I mean, the Lions' game plan is going to be the same game plan as we're going to see the rest of the year, because every team watches film. Every team studies film. They're paid to make these decisions. They're going to be like, stop Saquon Barkley, you stop the Giants, and that's just the fact. They're going to overload the box, which is exactly what the Lions did. And then you basically say, all right, Daniel, you and your receivers are going to have to beat us. And let's face it, there's a very good chance that that's not going to happen. You need Saquon Barkley to ball out. If Saquon Barkley doesn't give you 100-plus yards in both receiving and rushing, then you're just not going to have a chance to win a game. That's where we're at.
No, and you're absolutely right. And it's going to be even worse now moving forward because Wandale, right on cue, his best game, he was just lighting it up. Right on cue, he goes down with the torn ACL. So now an already just limited wide receiving group gets even worse. And we're on a short week, so who knows what the offensive game plan is going to be going into Dallas, but we'll get into that more later on in the show. Tudo says the Giants against cowards loses. The coach has got this. They'll make all the adjustments and tweaks for Thursday night. I hope you're right, Tudo, because
salute,
of course. I usually never, ever pick the Cowboys to beat us, but I can't see a scenario where we come out on top Thursday night. But we'll get into that later on in the show. Alex could hop on a minute. Yeah, I'll send him the link. Absolutely. See what he wants to say. But going back to the offense, that touchdown drive, I can't stop going back to it because there was RPOs left and right.
Yeah.
It was working. Lions couldn't stop it. They were getting back to it a little bit that second drive, and you're like, this is what needs to be done. Even against a defense like the Lions, we just don't have the personnel that can continuously beat you down because we're just not that good of a team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But when you see something's working, stick with it. Just stick with it. That's all I ask. And Kafka's play calling was very suspect yesterday, and it was very conservative. Very conservative, considering we were playing from behind pretty much from the second half on. Just did not go our way. Yeah, I'm going to send you the link right now, Alex. I see you in the chat.
Greg Olsen was exacerbated by that, Rob. He's like, Daniel Jones, the only time that he actually said during the telecast, he's like, the only time that the Giants have been successful moving the ball is with Daniel Jones running. Why are we not seeing that more? We need to see more design plays for Daniel Jones. He actually said that during the telecast. So you're quite right, Rob. That's how we were effective moving the ball. It was a lot of intermediate slants and Daniel Jones RPOs, designed runs. Whenever he did that, the Giants were moving the ball. But I agree, man. I think they kind of panicked once they went down 2 scores. I just don't think that the Giants really believe that they can successfully come back against teams that are so good in the air, and that's what the Lions' strength is, man. I mean, you see they put up points in bunches. We were worried about this in the preview. Jared Goff has had a decent year. They've now won 3 straight. I still think we should have won the game considering they traded TJ Hawkinson. I mean, if they had Hawkinson, that maybe you'd understand. But when you trade them away, that's a sign that they should be in rebuild mode. But they're coming out and they're winning games. And to be honest, they wiped the floor with us. Really, I think 31-18 was almost lucky for us because they could have put up far more if they wanted to, in my opinion. Like, we just won little, as they say, there were systematic breakdowns in offense, defense, special teams, and coaching.
Yeah, 1,000%. Before I bring in Alex here, they don't really have to tank necessarily. I know a lot of people might want to think, oh, they can get a better pick. They got the Rams pick, and the Rams absolutely stink. So as far as they're concerned, why don't they just go for it? Because they're a team, we mentioned it in the preview, they could have more wins right now.
Mhm.
They've played a lot of close games. Yeah, they aren't perfect. Their defense needs a lot of work, but they looked fine yesterday. And again, our offense is very good. However, the Lions are a team that you need to look at as a team on the come up. That offense looks good. It really does. Their defense is getting better. Maybe we'll see, but they got a few picks to work
They're
with.
4-6. They're not far away from a wild card.
They're not. They're really not. So anything can happen in this crazy NFL season. But Alex, Big Blue in the Bronx, thank you for joining as usual. Hopefully, next time we're talking with you, it's about a victory. But what did you think about yesterday's mauling at the hands of the Lions?
All that could go wrong went wrong. I think that's kind of the perfect way to sum it up. The coaching staff, the players, everyone's at blame. I think you can realistically blame, like, if you're talking about not position coaches, but coordinator coaches. I think Wink deserves the least blame out of all of them. But there is a lot to get into. First of all, the New York Giants used all of their Saquon lives. Like, a cat has 9 lives. They used all their Saquon lives at this moment. I said in my preview, shouts to Tudo, by the way, I said in my preview, yes, they're a bad run defense, but you need to pass it. And I know, obviously, there's the given thing. Well, we don't have wide receivers and all this sort of stuff. And it sucks. Wandale went down with a serious injury, and now we're stuck with Darius Slayton, Kenny Golladay, and who knows what else. I did some calculations. I also rewatched the second half, probably at midnight this morning.
God bless you.
Yes, trust me, it took a lot. First down, right? And I've been trying to get a gauge of what first down runs and what first down passes look like. The Giants are, I think, 30th or 31st in passing the ball on first down in terms of percentage-wise. But to get straight to the point, Saquon, specifically Saquon, because this is just my point here, 10 carries, 12 yards, 1.2 yards per carry. Daniel Jones, 7 for 14, 65 yards, 4.6 yards per attempt, and 9.3 yards per completion. I'm just sick and tired of, and I understand we're 7-3. I know I'm going to get that at some point. The New York Giants have to find a way to open up Daniel Jones on early downs. And now you could sit here and say, okay, Daniel Jones turned it over twice yesterday. Yes, he did. That I attribute that first throw is worse than the second throw because Hutchinson is known to drop out in coverage. Now, why will I combat that in a sense? Because we were still in the ball game. We were still in the ball game thanks to our defense. Now, should we have been in the ball game? Of course not. But we were literally, I texted Donald, and then he texted me when Hodgins fumbled that, we don't have a pulse anymore. But I said, this team has a pulse. Possible comeback. And they almost did it, but obviously Hodgins fumble, and there was a touchdown. Also, as well, I'd like to note that there are 3 major mistakes that led to touchdowns for the Detroit Lions. That's Daniel Jones' interception, Isaiah Hodgins' fumble, and Jamie Gillen's shank punt. Jamie Gillen has been about average this year. And why I also say pass the football when I was talking about, the preview coming into this game is you need to keep up with the Lions. Let's be fair. Against the Texans, we skidded by. We should have beat them by 2 scores. And this is nothing about the talent on the roster of the year or the expectations. We should have beat them by 2 scores if we ended up passing the football just a little bit more balanced. We could have scored 30 points and just said, okay, we'll go into next week with whatever. They run it on first down, and Lemieux gets blown up. Obviously, I'm not saying Saquon is the fault for, the running game not working. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is the Giants, in a way, needed to find a backup plan. It's not like Seattle where, nothing was working offensively. You're going to have those games. But I thought Detroit, they could have passed the ball a little bit earlier, despite Daniel Jones turning it over. But also, I do blame Brian Dable for the Adoree injury. But I'll let you guys, talk about my thoughts.
Okay. While I do agree that there needs to be better balance, and they do definitely need to try and throw the ball more on first down because it's getting too predictable. But I think you're possibly underestimating how really the offense is Saquon Barkley. Stop Saquon Barkley, you stop the Giants. Okay. The truth is, we don't have the receivers, and apart from Andrew Thomas, we don't have the pass protection, and also Daniel Jones. There's a reason why they've got him very much with the training wheels on him, right? And it's because I don't think they fully trust him to air it out more than absolutely necessary. He looks fine with very much set designed runs, designed RPOs, play actions, and intermediates and things like that. But I think when you're asking him to start forcing things, make things happen, that's when he starts getting into mistakes, just as you saw twice yesterday. So the reason why they've kept the turnovers down to an absolute zero was because of the designed certain game plan of 70% Saquon Barkley and then play actions and RPOs from there. And Daniel Jones is absolutely fine from that. He's a game manager, man. And so they've asked him to manage the game. So, and that's not necessarily a criticism of Daniel Jones, because there's a lot of teams that need a game manager right now. But I think you're maybe overlooking that point, because while against the Texans, yes, if we air down more, I do think we would have scored more touchdowns. But the reason why we lost the Lions game was a lot more than just Saquon Barkley. But had Saquon Barkley been Saquon Barkley, then we probably win this game. It's because they've just been loading up on the box now, man. Teams are just loading up on the box now. They're like, Daniel, beat us. And I don't think he's capable of beating teams on his own.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I just want to, at least, if you're not getting the ground game going, did they even think about using Saquon in the receiving game yesterday? It just felt like Matt Breida was used more in that role than Saquon was. I know he had a huge role against the Texans, and maybe they were kind of like, we used you a lot last week. We have a short week. We need you against Dallas. Maybe they kind of, I don't know, gave him a less role. I don't want to say they overlooked the Lions, but it just seems like they were not using Saquon the way they've used him in the past. Maybe it's preparation for Thursday night. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, trying to think of an excuse. But I think, Alex, I think you're right in the fact that they should definitely think about passing more on first down. But Donald is also spot on, because this is Saquon Barkley. This is the offense of Saquon Barkley. You take him off the team, I know that's not happening right now, but if you just take him off and think about what would we really be able to do. So I understand that they kind of have to at least keep running the football, or at least attempting it, because you never know with Saquon. But in the case of yesterday, it was clear as day they were not letting Saquon beat them. So my point earlier was, what was working was RPOs and letting Daniel Jones run the ball himself. They should have stuck with that and just said, okay, for this week only, it's Daniel Jones's offense. And then against a team like Dallas, I think you can, and then you can try to go back to that against Dallas on the short week, but they should have just stuck with it. So I think you're kind of both right, but I definitely think we should at least air it out a little bit more on first down, because if you're getting too predictable, and I know we've been really good on third and longs, but you cannot be, let's run it on first down and get a yard, and then you're 2nd and 8, and then it's possibly 3rd and 8. You don't want to see that.
Further to both your points, people are forgetting that Daniel Jones has lost his safety blanket. Bellinger was his safety blanket. That's a huge loss, because Cager just is not up to that level. He can't block, so obviously that's a big loss. And he's an okay receiver, but he's still not up to Bellinger's level. So he lost his safety blanket there. And also, apart from Slayton, who do you really trust on the outside that can get downfield? And that's why I'm really hesitant. And that's why the Giants' offensive coordinators are hesitant to air it out much. That's why it's very much designed about that. But I completely agree with you. Greg Olson completely agrees with you too, man. They should have clearly seen that Daniel Jones was having a great day running the football. So just do it. Be the vanilla Vic. They probably would have been in a much better scenario instead of forcing the ball downfield, which they were kind of doing, and getting themselves into trouble. I think they should have continued to have design runs for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Donald's absolutely correct when he says that, the entire offense is basically Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying totally abandon the run. That's not what I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying you guys are saying it either, but like, for instance, just the tendencies besides first down, right? We talk about the interception, the second one that Daniel Jones threw to Kirby Joseph. So you have 2nd and 5. What do? They run the football. Actually, no, it was 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, right? What do? They run the football on 3rd and 6. I understand you are limited in terms of weapons. I understand that. And just from certain rushes in the game, I literally have that's not a spray chart, but first carry was -3 for Saquon. Then it was -1. Then it was 1. Then it was 4. Then it was 2. But at some point in game, you have to recognize it's not working with Saquon. Teams, and I know this is just a point that's been made 100 times already. Teams are going to keep stacking the box, and they need to just find a way to get the passing game going. Keep Daniel Jones running on the ground. But I don't think I can't say that they forced it, but at the same time, they kind of had to pass it yesterday with the circumstances that were given.
And yeah, Tudo going in with a bunch of comments. I want to get to these comments here from Tudo. I don't want to think I'm forgetting you, Tudo. Of course, Paisan, I can never forget you. He says, Alex, Giant schemes were so predictable from the start. The Lions D would load in the box, man coverage, his own coverage according so perfectly. That's why the Giants run cat, deep box, nowhere to go. They couldn't move the ball. They just couldn't really move the ball with any sort of success.
Shout out Authentic.
Authentic, what is up, my dude, in the chat? Never give up on the run, especially in 4-down territory. I mean, we're not saying give up on the run game. We're just saying
you can't keep running Daniel if you aren't showing Saquon on read option. That's true as well. 100%.
No, that's definitely true. And listen, you need to show, because if you show Matt Breida on a read option, I mean, it would look just weird. But on 3rd and long and 5, if you pick up 4 yards, you can actually run it again on 4th. No, I absolutely agree, but I'm just going towards like what the trend was yesterday, because I have like the little rushes and the yards and what was, counted on each attempt. And if it was working, or if it was medium working, it's fine. But the fact that they were getting negative, almost like 2-yard carries tops, figure something out. Like 1st down and 10, put yourself in a position, throw it short. You don't have to go for long every time. You just throw it short, and then you keep going. 2nd and 5, you could run it as well. Run set and I know it's the old school mindset of, the run sets up the pass. Well, I think in this day and age, also the pass sets up the run. And I think
it depends on your personnel, man. You can't just force it.
Right, you can't force it, but you can't keep forcing Saquon, hoping he's going to spring one as well when your blocking isn't necessarily good.
But it's no good on also in the offensive pass protection. Apart from Thomas, who's just a god at left tackle, there was a mismatch with Evan Neal out, and Feliciano's really struggling pass protection. He's having a really bad year. Glowinski's having a bad year, and Lemieux managed to grade out as a 0 PFF, and I really think that plays a massive part. As I was saying earlier, in my opinion, Aleem McNeil was the best player on the Lions defense. I mean, he just was a wrecking ball in the interior, and he was stopping Daniel Jones as Saquon in his tracks, and he wasn't allowing really much time for Daniel Jones to do anything. And a lot of it is dependent on your personnel. Yeah, the pass sets up the run if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you've got Patrick Mahomes and you've got 3 or 4 receivers that can get downfield, and you got Travis Kelce, who's the best tight end probably ever, and you're kind of set up. But in the Giants situation, it's Saquon, baby. You got to ride him and you got to hope, and that's how we've won our 7 games to this point. Saquon Barkley.
No, you're both making great points, and so is Authentic in the chat. He says, I saw the video he put up. Jones missed a throw to Cager on 4th. He had a little pressure up the middle. Yeah, he looked like he overshot it just a bit. He looked like he overshot the throw just a little bit because it wasn't a bad read. He knew he had the guy open, but he overshot the throw, and that was the second pick, which I don't think that one led to a touchdown. It was the first one that led to a touchdown, but that one wasn't. It was still costly because we had a chance at that point in the game. You can't pass if you can't block and have no threats. Our team is lucky to be where we are at. Yeah, I was saying earlier.
I agree with you.
I was saying earlier that I don't want to sound like because of this loss that I'm starting to like give up on the season and waving the proverbial white flag. It's just we knew playing with the house. We're playing with the house's money here. We shouldn't be in this spot. I was saying we're probably going to win 8 games on accident because our schedule favored it. But we now at this point, the expectations have changed. I want the playoffs. I know the future is very, very bright, and I know the GM and the coach and everybody in that front office has their eyes set on the bigger prize. But I do want to stress that they
Thanks
got
so much
here
for
for
authentic. Much appreciated. Like and subscribe already.
He's got a great show. If you haven't seen Authentic and the Beard, please check them out. They are awesome. They always put out great content. Incredible cameras too. I don't know where they got the cameras from, but that's like the clearest live stream I've ever seen. But anyway, I don't want to think this season is over. I just yesterday really magnified that this team is a lot further away, and maybe the fact that we had all these wins kind of maybe blinded us a little bit from where the ultimate goal is. But we need to, I think at this point now we got to temper down a little bit. Just be like, okay, maybe we came a little bit back down to earth, especially now with these guys going down, like they're dropping like flies. A bumpy ride the rest of the way. I still think we wind up with 10 wins, but it'll be a lot tougher now because of yesterday's loss.
There's a very famous quote from that movie, White Man Can't Jump. Have anyone ever seen White Man Can't Jump? Rob, you ever seen White Man Can't Jump? Sometimes when you win, you really lose. And sometimes when you lose, you really win. Right? I know it sounds crazy, but that's the truth. I take a lot of positives from yesterday because it's a reminder. It's a reminder of where we are and where we need to go. Sometimes a loss, for instance, that win over the Texans kind of covered up a lot of our flaws, right? Because it was no way that you can really build a whole offensive unit around running the ball 71% of the time. That's not something that's sustainable, right? And especially scraping through against a really bad Texans team who got lit up against the commanders, communists, or whatever they are for the most part. So I took less from that game than I took from yesterday's game, right? I think that yesterday showed where we need to go, what we need to improve on. For instance, we need a bunch of receivers that can get downfield. And I want some bigger-bodied receivers. I want receivers that can get separation, and I want receivers that have a little bit of height and frame. So I want at least 2 receivers in there, maybe 3. And then we also need to look at the offensive line, especially the interior. Obviously, Thomas and Neal were fine, but the interior needs reworked again. And obviously now with the injuries to our secondary and the fact that one injury has completely thrown our secondary for a loop shows that once again we really need to be going and looking at the secondary as well. So you know what? This loss has clarified a lot of things. It's tempered expectations. I think that's a good thing because we don't have the personnel to be going nuts about, oh, yeah, we can win this game. We can win this game. No problem. We don't have the team for that. So it's fine. I'm actually okay with that loss. It's tough. The Lions have a very good team. I know that it doesn't make a lot of sense because of their record and where they were last year, but their personnel, they've got a better receiver than we've ever had since Odell Beckham and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's the truth. They've got a phenomenal receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. He can make things happen. They've got 2 really good running backs. He's got a quarterback that can air it out downfield. He went to the Super Bowl. So they do have a decent offense, and they've got some really good playmakers on defense. Hutchinson's a monster, absolute monster. So you know what? It's not the end of the world. And then we move on. I think we're fine. I'm excited for because we're still rebuilding. So we're good.
Yeah, you're right. Everything you say right there is spot on. And I do want to now kind of pivot because you mentioned the name Odell Beckham. He's been in the news. He's still in the news. The race is coming down to apparently, supposedly, two teams. And those two teams happen to play each other on Thursday afternoon in Arlington. We're going to talk about that right here because not only do the Giants and Cowboys play for second place in the East, they could also be playing for the services of one OBJ. Alex, I'll start with you.
It is a great movie, Authentic. It is
A fantastic movie. Alex, but I'll start with you. What are your expectations going into this Dallas game? And do you think we get Odell back, or do you think he breaks our hearts and goes to the Cowboys?
So, expectations going into the Dallas game. Now, obviously, there were certain things I was mad at with this game that I'll continue to vent on during my show at 8:10. But regardless, talking about this game, Dallas, I would expect a lot of zone defense, a lot of soft zone. Don't be mad when Wink Martindale comes out with that. Now, obviously, we were mad. Some of us were mad when Patrick Graham did that. I thought Patrick Graham had more personnel to work with, but regardless, that's not the point. He doesn't have the edge presence. The production's not there unless you're talking about Leo and Dex. You're probably looking at your starting corners being Holmes in the slot and maybe Flott and McLeod on the outside, or it's just a mixture of different things that to continue to put in there. You don't have the safety depth to even try Julian Love at corner, so definitely soft zone on the back end of the defense. I don't know how much you stack the box because they ran all over the Vikings defense. I don't know if y'all watched the game. That was terrible. I would maybe expect Landon Collins to be activated because of how bad our linebackers are. And Tay Crowder was the best linebacker yesterday, in my opinion. So that says a lot about someone.
Dude, Jalen Smith got lit up like a freaking firework.
Jalen Smith was terrible yesterday. He
Terrible.
was being – I think I could have blocked him into the second wave of the defense. But I don't know how much they stack the box because of how many threats they have at wide receiver. As for offensively, I don't know what to expect. I'm going to expect, just based off of the way they've been doing it the whole season, run-first approach with Saquon, which not necessarily happy about, but we'll see where it goes in terms of efficiency and all these other things. But they have to pivot. They have to make in-game adjustments. I understand this is the Cowboys. They got a tough secondary. They got a tough defense overall. But you have to pivot and make adjustments. If the passing game ain't working, then you pivot off that. If the running game ain't working, Saquon's not getting the yards, maybe it's not because of Saquon. You got to pivot to the passing game. You got to find some way to be creative. And that's going to really show us over these next few weeks. Offensive and defensively, I'm actually more interested in how this coaching staff adjusts these next few weeks with the personnel changes rather than interested whether Odell comes here or not. As for the Odell thing, I don't know necessarily what to think of it. As the weeks go on and as the more mind games he plays on Twitter, I'm like, if he doesn't come, he doesn't come. And if he shows up, hey, listen, it's a weapon.
I mean, if I were OBJ advising OBJ, I'd go to the Giants because you're going to be automatically wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1. Whereas the Cowboys, they got CeeDee Lamb, they got Gallup, they got a bunch of options, and then they've got Tony Pollard, who's just fucking phenomenal. Holy shit, is he good? And then you got Zeke Elliott, who can also come in as well. They've got a ton of options. So, maybe that's what Odell wants, though, because, to be less relying upon him coming off his ACL, that maybe, there could be times where maybe he's not going to be on it and he's working himself back, but there's CeeDee Lamb and Gallup that can carry the load. Maybe that's something that's ideal for him. Plus, the Cowboys are ready to win. But maybe for his legacy, he'd be thinking, you know what? I can be a giant. I can be a forever giant with this by coming back, helping them to the playoffs. be forever beloved by Giant Nation. You know how I've only just learned this, but judging by what he's been saying, and I mean, it meant a lot to him to be a Giant. I think he loved being a Giant. And I think he wants to right some of the things that went wrong at the end of his stint, and I think he's mature now, and maybe he'd be thinking about his legacy, because if he does go to the Cowboys, then he'll know the Giant Nation will never forgive him. So
yeah, I think it should. Whether I take it as me being sore or me being nonplussed and just like about it. I think if he goes to the Cowboys, all OBJ back to the Giants rumors should just end, done, movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes into Tudo's comment here. He says Odell won't be any solution to any of the Giants' problems. Even Gano couldn't kick the ball right. Oh, he was sick. I'm going to give him a pass for that.
Yeah, he was 4 IVs prior to the game.
Mistakes and penalties everywhere. Giants' problems are much deeper than it looks like. Well, I honestly agree with that, Tudo, but
that's right.
Odell would give you a legitimate number one. Even Odell on 1 foot is better than most of what we have in that receiving room right now. But he would sign a multi-year deal, and he wouldn't be discussing the Giants at all unless he knew, and Joe Shane wouldn't even be discussing this as well unless he knew he can fit him in this year and next year and maybe even 1 year after that. They wouldn't even entertain this idea if they didn't know, both sides, if they didn't know or have any sort of idea that it could work out. So the fact that Odell has been, even if he's teasing us, because he said yesterday on Twitter, I do miss Saquon. It's like, please stop teasing us. But even if you take away all that teasing, the fact that he said it on podcasts and the fact that he was visiting the Giants facility, even though it was to see Shepard. And Donald, you mentioned it, righting all the wrongs in the past. Those are wrongs that were started by the organization, the locker room cancer stuff. Look at when he signed his extension. His teammates and him were dancing in the freaking locker room celebrating him getting that contract. It wasn't like it was just him saying, let's start a party because I signed money. No, everyone was happy for him. They loved Odell, even though he started some crap on the sidelines with the kicking net and the whole Josh Norman thing. He was fiery, and it was dedication. That man put his best out there every single time he was on the field, and he was the lone reason people wanted to go watch Giants games from 2014 on. Nobody cared. Eli was declining at that point. We didn't have another weapon. No one wanted to see Ruben Randall play. Sterling Shepard was always fun, but he wasn't the star attraction. You had kids getting their hair done like Odell. He was a superstar. So, yeah, and the fact that the Giants organization or Dave Gettleman and company kind of like tried to smear him when they traded him a few weeks after saying we didn't sign him to trade him, and then all that stuff, locker room cancer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, could things have been better on his part? Absolutely, but the whole idea that Odell was bad for the locker room went out the window when he went to the Rams, helped them win a Super Bowl, and Von Miller is literally like campaigning like this guy is a presidential candidate right now, trying to get this guy to join Buffalo. You wouldn't have people doing that if he was such a bad teammate. Even in Cleveland, a lot of his complaints were justified because this dude was just not getting the ball on a lot of occasions from Baker Mayfield.
And Baker couldn't find him. I mean, I think that the only thing that annoyed me and that has tainted his legacy was that he didn't give Eli Manning more respect, because Eli Manning made his help make his career. Like 90% of his receiving yards and touchdowns came from Eli Manning. And so when he did that interview with a Lil Wayne, Justina Anderson,
I don't like her.
It was a disgraceful interview, and that was unforgivable from his part. He never should have taken part in it, and he never should have gone down that route about Eli Manning. All he should have been is praising the guy that's won more Super Bowls than he ever will. So had that never happened, then I'm completely in agreement with you. But he did taint his legacy, and then it affected the way the Giants organization looked at him, because that was a very immature thing to do. Having said that, I want him back now. All is forgiven. All is in the past. I think he's a mature guy now. I think I just think that he's the consummate pro now. As you're right, I think he was perfect for the Rams last year, and I think he'd be perfect for the Giants.
And Authentic back in the chat here said, I don't know about a legitimate number one. He'd be for us because he just don't have enough options. But he's a huge OBJ fan. As long as there isn't too much money, he's all for it. OBJ would be better suited with another solid receiver, but we could revive KG, maybe. Well, yeah, he had a couple of catches yesterday. Finally, running out of time because KG will probably be gone next year. Yeah, I mean they can bring back Slayton. Wandale won't be playing for a while next year, and maybe they draft somebody because receivers are coming out of the draft left and right and are becoming immediate stars.
Bethan Jiba looks really good.
Yeah, OBJ was really trying to say there was a culture problem with the Giants, talking about that.
Oh, yeah, there definitely was. But Gettleman never wanted to admit that. No, you're right. There was a lot of this was Gettleman. I didn't sign him to trade him, and then you just started making calls like the day after. I mean, that was just lying for the sake of lying.
No, I mean, listen, I could see Authentic trying to take that out as a takeaway. And I know this is years ago, and I don't attribute it to Odell's character now because I do believe he has matured. But I guess speaking in 2018, you have to know that people are going to take crap out of context, even if you don't mean, and you talk about Eli and you talk about all these different things, you have to know that they're going to take that out of context and use it against you. So that once again, that interview is just my only problem with him. But I don't attribute that to as the player he is now. I don't.
Same here. Completely agree.
No,
so let's do our little stats and fixtures for next week. Considering this will be our preview show as well before Thursday. So right. So 27-24. I had the Giants beating the Lions. I was wrong. Rob, you had 23-21. Giants, wrong. Alex, you had 24-20. Giants, wrong. Saquon, we were all wrong. We weren't even close. I had 140 yards and a touchdown. So I think we can all we'll just forget about that. But Rob, you did really well. First rushing touchdown. You had Daniel Jones. So Rob, you get the dub. Alex, you had Saquon. I had Darius Slayton. Turnover, well, you can forget about that. Sacks, Rob, you had 4. I had 5. Did we get anything?
We had 0. We didn't get a single sack.
So bad. This was my favorite. Rob, you had Kenny Golladay getting the most receiving yards on the team last.
Supposed to be his revenge game.
Yeah, the revenge game didn't work. I had Slayton. It was wrong. It was Wandale. So it was all a complete and utter clusterfuck. However, Rob gets the win for the Daniel Jones rushing touchdown. So good job, Rob. We will go through the games on yesterday. Bears-Falcons. We both had the Bears. So that's an L.
Big L.
Browns-Bills. Both had Buffalo.
Okay.
Philly-Indy. Both had Philly.
Yep.
The Communists and the Texans. We both had the Communists. The Raiders and the Broncos. I win that one. I had the Raiders. You had the Broncos. You should never, ever go with the Broncos. Like, never, ever go with the Broncos.
I can't go with the Raiders anymore. So I was like, how do I pick this game? Every time I pick the Raiders, I'm like, oh, this will be the week they turn around. They lose, so I can't pick them anymore. I picked the Raiders to lose last week or yesterday, and they freaking win. So you're welcome, Raiders Nation.
So I'm up at the moment. Jets, Pats. Rob, you had the Jets, and I knew it. I knew the Pats were going to do it. I got the win. Rams, Saints. We both had the Saints. Panthers, Ravens. Both had the Ravens. Cowboys, Vikings. Oh, no. I had the Vikings.
And I had Dallas, didn't I?
You did have Dallas.
Oh, we're catching up.
So It's now within 1. Chiefs, Chargers. We both had the Chiefs. Bengals, Pittsburgh. Oh, I went Pittsburgh. Why the hell did I do that?
And I've tied it up for the week. It
Yeah,
comes
I've tied
down.
it up for the week. All
Does
right.
it come down to Monday Night Football?
Yes, it does.
But did I pick the Cardinals again?
Yes, you did.
Oh, Lord. It does come down to Monday Night Football. We're tied.
Oh,
Comes down to I got something to watch tonight. Our weekly picks are on the line here.
yeah, it is. So if the 49ers win, I win the week.
Let's
The
go
Cardinals
Cardinals.
wins the week. That's what you get here on Nerding Out of Sports. It all comes down to Monday night. So one of us will be gloating on Thursday on our live cast. Should we go for next week's fixtures?
Yeah, let's try to predict Giants Cowboys and see how this is going to go.
400-4. The Giants get 2 safeties.
Final score prediction, Alex, since you're lucky enough to join us today in a losing effort. First time I think you've joined after a loss.
24-10. Cowboys.
Okay. I take that.
Yeah, I don't think I put on Twitter earlier that I'd give somebody $20 if we beat the Cowboys. Like I just don't see it happening. So I'm going to take Dallas as well, 27-13.
Okay. I've got the Cowboys 34-17.
Oof. That's rough. That is rough. Okay.
Okay. Now.
Daniel Jones.
Of course. Daniel Jones. Predictions?
194 yards passing, 20 yards rushing.
No touchdowns?
Tutu has 37-17. Yep, pretty much the same as me. 34-17. Okay. How many touchdowns? 1?
0 passing. I think Saquon's going to get the only touchdown.
Okay. Yikes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a rough day for Jones. I'm going to say he has 180 yards passing. What did I say? 27-13 was the score?
Yep.
Did you find the end zone once? I think he'll have 1 touchdown.
So, because the Cowgirls are going to put up 30-odd points, the Giants will have to air it out more. So I actually think that Daniel Jones will clear 200. So you might see, like 220, something like that, 230, 230. But again, a couple of picks, I think, most likely. But I think you'll get 1 touchdown too. Okay. Most receiving yards. Slayton?
It kind of has to be.
Who else is it going to be? Hodgins?
I mean, I don't want to have everyone pick Slayton. I'm not picking him again. Can't do it.
It might just be irrelevant at this point because now we've got a receiver. So
Lawrence Cager.
Yeah, maybe we just abandon that for now.
Yeah.
Until we actually have consistently more than 1 receiver
Right,
that could do anything.
Then let's go to Saquon. How many yards does he finish with?
Yeah. I think Saquon's going to have 1 massive run that's either going to set up a touchdown or score. I think he can be like a 50-yard or something like that. So, but then I think the rest of it, he'll be slightly shut down. So I think about 94 yards rushing.
Yeah, I think he's going to finish with about 73. He's not going to find the end zone.
I think he'll get one.
All right, first takeaway, if any. Who's it come from?
Oh boy. Well, we don't have a secondary, so it's really hard. I have no idea. Dexter Lawrence, forced fumble.
I'm going to say Cordell Flott gets an interception.
Woo!
Tudo says the Cowboys have weapons to score and they utilize them in full force. Jerry Jones is hungry for points and he invests in them fully. Jerry Jones invests in a lot of things, just not championships anymore. So they can have all the regular season wins they want. Dallas is known for choking.
I actually think that we could have won Thursday's game had we Dory Jackson. I just think that, and Wandale Robinson. I just think that's it's almost too much. It's almost too much to ask for to come back like that.
Yeah. And how about total number of sacks again, if any? Do we?
Not many. I'll go with 2.
Yeah, I'm going to say 1.
If we get, it's not going to be pretty. All right, let's get our the rest of the games. So Lions Bills.
I think you know where I'm going with that one.
Yeah, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll just go Bills by 3. Okay.
Pats Vikings.
Vikings Patriots.
Patriots offense looks so bad. I'm gonna take the Vikings.
I'm taking the Vikings too.
Yep, Vikings by 3. Okay.
Bucks Browns.
Yeah.
Bad game. Bucks.
Yeah, I'll take the Bucks as well.
Yep. Bucks.
Bengals Titans. That's a good one. Tennessee.
Give me Tennessee.
Tennessee. Rob?
I'm going to go Bengals.
I'm going Bengals too. I'm so sorry for downing you, Joe Burrow.
No, authentic. I think Watson's back next week.
Tutu, Alex, is Serbia in the Soccer World Cup? Yes, Serbia is playing on Thursday night against Brazil at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, American time, which would be 7 p.m. UK Standard Time, so that would be 8 p.m. Italian time.
See, Donald knows more than I do about my own country, but I'm not a fan of the World Cup, so I can't say.
I'm rooting for the USA. Let's go USA, baby. All the way.
Next up, we got the Texans.
Today. Okay.
Texans, Dolphins in Miami. Dolphins should run away with this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Bears and Jets.
Texans, Miami. Yeah, I think probably Miami by 3. Okay.
Bears and Jets. It's in MetLife.
Jets rebound.
I'm taking Chicago. I think the Jets have a little issue going on right now. They don't know who the quarterback is.
Yep. I agree.
Justin Fields is hurt, I think.
He's day to day.
I'm still taking the Bears.
I'm going Bears too.
Donald, we have to have something different. I was hoping you'd pick the Jets. All right. Falcons, Commanders.
Who's
Commanders
I have to take the Commanders, unfortunately. I love a Falcons upset, though.
Kind of need a Falcons upset.
Yep. Or I'll still be tied with us.
That is true. Give me the Falcons.
Okay.
Apologies to the beard in advance.
I was going to go Falcons. Falcons.
This one might be really fun to watch. Broncos, Panthers.
Who's home?
Panthers.
Give me the Panthers.
Donald.
Give me the Panthers.
Broncos country, let's ride. I'm taking Denver. Ravens, Jaguars in Jacksonville.
Close. Ravens win, though.
Ravens.
Ravens. Chargers, Cardinals in Arizona.
Chargers looked really good against the Chiefs. Herbert looks like he's back to himself again, so I'm going to go. Although they were unlucky to lose, I still think that they're going to have a good close to the year, so I'm going to go Chargers.
Give me the Cards.
I have them winning tonight, so I don't know how it's going to go, but I'll hit the Cardinals again.
Oh, okay.
Raiders, Seahawks. I can't pick the Raiders anymore. I made a promise to myself, which means the Raiders will
You've
probably
made the
win
same
this
promise
week.
that I have, haven't you?
With the Rams.
The Raiders.
Oh yeah, I can't pick them. They're absolutely dreadful.
They
Even
are
though they won last week.
very bad. I'm going Seahawks.
Give me the Seahawks.
Seahawks, clean sweep. Rams and Chiefs.
Oh, tough one.
Yeah, a real tough one. Chiefs. They're 14.5-point favorites as of right now.
So we've all basically got the same apart from same game.
Saints and 49ers.
Give me the 49ers.
I agree.
I'm going to take the Niners as well. Packers and Eagles in Philly. Can Rodgers pull off an upset against another NFC East team like he did against Dallas?
No.
Ah, fuck it. Give me the Packers.
Yeah, I'm going to do it too. Go Pack, go. Probably going to cost me the week, but we'll see. And finish off the week with Steelers and Colts in Indy.
Yeah.
That's a disgusting one.
Give me the Steelers.
Yeah, I'll take the Colts.
So I watched the Bengals Steelers game, and I really thought the Steelers would have won the game had they actually had a quarterback. Kenny Pickett was 4 or 12 at one point in the second half, and for 30 yards, he couldn't do anything. And they were having the ball in incredible field position, basically in the Bengals half for much of the last part of the third quarter into the early fourth, but they could not move the ball. So I just don't know what they've got in Kenny Pickett. And for that reason, I'm going Colts.
All right. Well, those are our picks for the week coming up. Tudo, we're about to wrap it up here because Alex and Donald both have boys in the Big Apple in like 1 minute, actually. But we'd love to have Authentic on at some point, anytime soon. So if we can set that up, absolutely, because Authentic is always great to talk with. Love seeing his takes on Twitter, and the few times that we do interact on Twitter, it's always good talking. Always has great points, so absolutely, 1,000.
Well, tell the viewers what we've got planned on Thursday.
Yes, Thursday afternoon, we're going to be, for the first time ever, calling play-by-play Giants, Cowboys. We'll see if it goes well. Hopefully pull off the upset. We will have the play-by-play right here on Nerd Out Sports, 4:30 p.m. Giants, Cowboys. So hopefully you all tune in for that. But yeah, that is going to wrap it up. So please go over to Big Blue in the Bronx, starting up very, very soon, next few seconds. Boys in the Big Apple every Monday. and it'll be going on very, very, very soon. So for Rob, Donald, I'm Rob, of course. For Donald and Alex, this is Nerd Out Sports. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. We will see you all again Thursday. Let's go, G-Men. Peace out.
Peace.